Hey everybody, Jess Intuitive Angel Healer here with your Grounded. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today and welcome to another episode of Your Angels Are Talking. Are you listening? Inspirational stories of angelic and universal miracles. This podcast is all about the magic that the universe contains and helps to open your eyes to the fact that we turn a blind eye to spirit, and this causes us to miss out on the joy and beauty each day holds. Abundance is all around us and comes in many different forms. But how often do we take time to count our blessings, to say thank you to the universe for waking us up today? Be content with the love in our souls. If you are wondering or asking yourself right now, how do I break up with fear and embrace the miracle of my angels so I can create the life that I desire? Well, the universe has brought you to the right podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I know him very well. His name is Chef Ramos. Mark Ramos, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing well. And for those of you out there, this is my guy. And he is also known as Chef Ramos. He in Colorado, USA. He's a certified Reiki chef, a motivational speaker, promotional event facilitator, and a podcast host of Heard, But Did You Hear Me? And he's the founder of On the Move Catering 111. And he's an amazing guy, not just because he's my man, my boyfriend, but it is because he also has had a spiritual awakening along with me. And he's more been on it longer than I have. But our paths, we crossed paths in 2017, which was a
Yeah.
crazy year, but we crossed paths and I finally found someone who has the same crazy angel stories, the same motivation with me. So I would like to hand it over to him and let him tell you all about his adventures to becoming a Reiki chef, motivational speaker, and how you have your own business right now. So go ahead and tell us all about it.
Let me start off by saying my name is Mark, born and raised in Ogden, Utah. Ended up going to Texas for a while, got married, got divorced, and then came out here to Colorado, kind of start a new life. I've always been cooking at a fairly young age. I am now in my 40s. My passion is cooking, and it's something that I take with pride. Didn't come easy. I've always been spiritually in tuned. I've always thought myself a little different than everybody else. My mom would always say I was special.
What was your motivation that started your whole journey to get on the cooking path to become a chef?
What got me motivated to be able to cook for myself was a big issue, a big thing. My grandma, she raised me at a fairly young age. And I say my mom was there also, but I spent a lot of time with my grandma. To be able to go in the kitchen and see her whip up some food and not get kicked out of the kitchen, because usually when you're about 9, 10, 11 years old, your grandparents, your parents really don't have the patience to teach you on how to cook or to teach you what they're doing. And I've always been the kind of little kid that wanted to see hands-on what you're doing, always asking questions, always in the mix. What got me motivated to cook was watching my grandpa in the garden and growing all the vegetables and seeing all the passion that he had when he started from finish to harvest. It was something awesome to be able to go in the backyard and pick some ingredients for you to make some badass salsa, and to be able to watch your grandma whip it up right in front of you and then taste it. That was something really amazing to me. So I got to be able to experience straight from the farm straight to the kitchen.
Your roots you didn't start as a chef. You actually started as a dishwasher, right?
Actually, I started off as a lawn maintenance kid. I was fairly about 12, 13 years old. During summertime, my grandma and grandpa, they ran a place. Well, it's in Ogden, Utah. My grandma and grandpa, they were the groundskeepers there. So during my summer, I would go there and cut grass and plant and pick up garbage and wash windows. And it happened to be a mental health facility area where we worked at. And it was all really connected from my aunt and my aunt to my mom. They didn't work together, but it was all connected. And then after that, remember going to this place called Andy's Chug Wagon, which no longer exists anymore. I started off as a dishwasher. And me being really poor, I was eating the food off the conveyor belt. I had no shame of how to eat. And when you're washing dishes and you see food and you're hungry, you eat it. And I remember a couple of chefs, they were like, hey, you're going to get sick on what you're doing. Why don't you just stop on doing that? And why don't you come tomorrow morning and be ready to do some prep work and maybe cook? Would you like to be a cook? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I like to get out of this dish area. It's wet and it stinks, and I would love to learn how to cook. That was my very first start, which I hated because when you work there in the kitchen, you have no label there. You're a runt. They call it a greenhorn when you're in a professional chef in the high-end cooking facilities. So I was the runt. I always had to peel onions and had to peel shrimp and had to clean dishes. And even though I was a prep cook, I still had to do dishes. And that was something that I picked up on. I ended up going to another restaurant. I've been to quite a few restaurants. Watching the face on my grandma when I would come home with different dishes that I cooked, it was really cool because she was accustomed to only having that Mexican authentic cooking. Rice, beans, tortillas, chile verde, pozole, mole, menudo, chilequiles. All the pretty much simple stuff. And all the stuff that I mentioned is stuff that you can find in a regular Mexican's kitchen, and it's a poor kitchen.
I feel like that's one thing about your angels, because it is food, faith, and angels whispers. So your angels upgraded you from being the dishwasher, from having to peel shrimp. So you went through, everybody gets that cook label when they go. A lot of people understand that label of just being a cook, but your angels actually dropped the opportunity for you to level up to chef.
I pretty much you always got to criticize your work. You always got to criticize what you do when you are in this kind of profession. It wasn't something that now I become a chef. I quit peeling shrimp. I quit washing dishes. I quit cleaning up. I still continue doing that. When you're in the kitchen, you got to kind of be a mentor to all these young kids because a lot of them don't know how to cook. Me, by learning on how to cook, my grandma left me at home at 15, 16 years old by myself for 3 or 4 months. And she would make tortillas. She would throw them in the freezer. So whenever I wanted, I would just pull them out of the freezer. And she would make chili and freeze that too. So I would come home, from school, and I would be like, all right, what am I going to cook? And I remember just opening up the fridge and seeing, a little bit of eggs, and I would have a sack of potatoes and some green chili. And I remember pulling out some tortillas and having a friend coming over and knocking at my door and saying, hey, Ramos, what are you doing? And I'm at 15 years old, and I'm like, I'm just about to make something to eat. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I don't know what's going to taste like, but I call myself a mixologist. You go inside the kitchen and you find what you have available and you make it work. So that's what it really inspires me on being a chef. I can go in to anything and whip it up. It tastes good.
Now let's talk about your angel story about how you leveled up to being a chef.
To be able to get into that, it would probably be a change. I was tired of being that Mexican, that labeled Mexican in that kitchen. When you work with people that really don't just people that really don't respect you, you're just an employee there. You're really nobody. Some people recognize your work, but 95% of the time they don't recognize your work. And if they do recognize your work, then they're going to be putting you on a schedule. They're going to be working you to the ground, and they'll never acknowledge you by the pay.
Cement your faith that you knew your angels, that you were different, and your angels were really gonna not have you be the dishwasher forever.
I gotta, I guess, say that, it's some people, they probably think I see an angel and they tap me on my shoulder and say, and I see them, which, about 75% of the time I don't see them. A lot of people think I hear voices or I hear something in my head and say, hey, you need to do this. It's pretty much that feeling when you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself, I want to do better. And the next step is when you ask your angels or ask your creator to help you get to that level. So, it took a practice to be able to learn the law of attraction, to learn what manifest is, to learn what you think is what you're going to create. So, for example, was tired of working for a restaurant. It's a very great place to work at. They're a respectful place. But like I said, when you start working hard, they start acknowledging you, they start putting hours on you, and that's it. You live there. You don't move up. You just become a slave. You become a Mexican mule is what I call them. One day, which was my birthday, it was on the 4th of July, you and I actually were at a motel, and I called my boss and said, hey, I have somebody coming in to cover my shift, and they're there to cover my shift, and I'm going to enjoy my birthday. And so the guy told me, my executive chef, he said, hey, you're going to have to come in. I told you that you're not going to just make your own schedule. And that's not what he told me. He said if I find someone to cover my shift, that's what I would do. And they would cover it, and I would be able to enjoy my birthday. Well, he gave me the choice. He said, whether, you know what, you can either come in and not be fired and you might get a write up, or you don't come in and you don't have a job. And I chose not to have a job. I've learned to go with my intuition, go with that gut feeling, go with your heart. Know that your angels and your creator and the ones that love you will be by your side. So it's something that I'm able to embrace and know that my angels have my back. So I remember going home and kind of crying and feeling bad. I worked for that place for about 6, 7 years. I worked in the same place in Texas, and then the franchise came out here to Colorado, and I worked for another 2 years here. I remember listening to a little bit of YouTube of law of attraction and how to manifest, and I manifest my angels. I asked them to be there with me on my next journey because I do not want to be in the kitchen as a runt. I remember we got on Indeed. Woo woo. Indeed's a very great place for me to expand on what I wanted to do because I just didn't like Craigslist. I didn't want to go out and drive around for places. And I remember coming across a YouTube thing saying that learn how to manifest, learn how to talk and communicate with your angels, be more intuitive with yourself, and go with your gut feeling. So I remember telling myself, you know what? I am a good cook. I was only a cook, but I knew everything. And I'm still learning, though. I don't know everything in the cooking world, but I'm learning. And I remember putting an application in a place that I knew that I wouldn't even get. It was a very high-end place. It was one of the resorts that I work at. I put my application in, and I actually put a really high number for my pay. I know that I'm worth it, is what I told myself. And, I ended up not really respecting the job that I was going to get because I ended up walking in there with carelessness, but really it could have been my angels climbing in me and giving me that pride and that that courage to face it and be like, hey, you are worth it. Let's see what you can get paid, and let's see if you can work with these high-end bastards. And so that's what I did. I walked in there. I told myself, please, angels, let me be able to get this interview. Let me not have this anxiety. Let these people like me. Give me the opportunity to get a job here and see what it's like to really work at a high-end place. I walked right in there. I talked to one of the chefs. He's an awesome chef. His name is Chef Kettle. He's been around for a very long time. Mad respect for the guy. He had a little bit of drinking problems and stuff like that at the time. He's pretty good now, but he was a little alcoholic, and I was a little drug addict. I liked smoking a lot of weed. I didn't care where, when, how. I was careless and just didn't really care about my life at the time as much. Just went with the flow, and I started to embrace my life and manifest on what I want. So I walked in there, and I can remember smelling the bourbon on him, and maybe he smelled the weed on me, and he said, where are you from? What do you do? What do you know? And I told him, I'm a very great hard worker. Give me the chance to prove to you that I can do this, and you whip me just hard enough, I'll work for you. And that's my saying. And but if you hit me just a little too hard, I won't work. It's respect. I got to show respect and give respect. Called another executive chef, and his name is Bird. They liked me. They gave me my last interview, and I got hired. And I remember getting hired at a place like that. I walked in there, and I was all excited to work. And when you work at a high-end place, be expected to take your own utensils and your own cutting board and your own knives and your own knife sharpener and your own masks and your own hats and your own chef coat. That they don't provide any of that for you. And when you work for a franchise, they do provide that for you because you're replaceable. When you get hired at a higher end place, you're getting recognized on what you do. Fortunately, I'm not there anymore. I went to bigger and better things. I actually ran a restaurant out there in Parker. There was a place called Vines Bistro. The owner was Teresa. She was a really awesome person. Really nice place. If you're out there in Colorado, go check it out. It's out there in Parker.
Your angels actually did, we have a couple of angel stories revolving around your knives, actually, because when you had to go and start that out, we had to figure out how to get you some knives, because chef knives aren't, $5. They're actually $100 a piece, or
Yeah.
depending. So we went and got these knives. And when we lived at our old place, unfortunately, some kids were messing around and decided to come and steal the knives out of the back seat. We just happened to forget to lock the car. And what's even crazier is that we ended up somebody on Craigslist had that same kind of knife
Well,
brand.
it was actually on Facebook, and it was a married couple. They barely got their wedding knives, and I remember it was a Japanese lady, and maybe she just didn't like the knives, but they were the exact same knives
That
that
got
got
stolen.
stolen. That's an angel blessing for me. I got it for less than $25, and I when I bought them brand new, they were in the box still. So these ones were in the box, and they're brand spanking new, and it was awesome because I only paid like $25 to $50 for them, and I got 2 or 3 pairs of knives, and they were the global knives.
And if you wouldn't have had them, you wouldn't have been able to go to work. Like, you don't bring your tools, you no work.
Exactly. When I very first started there, though, I remember I didn't have anything to start off with. And I remember a friend of mine, Jenkins, and a couple other cats. And I remember walking in the kitchen and asking them, all right, well, where's the knives at? So I can go ahead and start cutting up some stuff. And they all kind of giggled. And they're like, you got to bring your own stuff, man. And so I kind of went back to my station and kind of was wondering, what am I going to do now? So a lot of these chefs got together and they got me a used bag, and they got me a couple of other knives to work with, and I got myself through that day. And I remember how embarrassed I was because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And when I got home, I remember you buying me my very first pair of knives, and got me a chef bag, and slowly started to invest into myself and telling myself that, I can be as great as any other chef as long as you invest into yourself.
Exactly. And your angels did another, we've had a lot of different experiences with it, but I've always learned that if it's your purpose, nothing can hold you back from your purpose. Nothing's going to ever take it away from you. So even though your knives got taken by those kids that were just door checking cars, they replaced it. Our angels have dropped little things. Even when we met each other, it's like we crossed paths because we definitely were supposed to be here to help enlighten each other. And relationship isn't just about being, romantic together. It's about a friendship. It's about a bond and helping each other days that
Exactly.
aren't the prettiest.
Remember, when we got together and we ended up hearing the news that my grandma about to pass away.
All about that, because that is a crazy angel story.
Grandma at the time, she was about to turn 100. I went about 6 months before she passed away. And I remember her passing away, and I went down there to the burial, and we buried her and all that stuff. I remember when my mom said, don't worry about coming down. She's probably going to pass away today or tomorrow, and we'll keep you in contact. And I remember we went up to the mountains to go camping. We opened up the back hatch of my Jeep, and we were sitting in the back hatch and just hearing the rain fall down, and I was just sitting there in my own head and just listening to the water and to the nature, and I was really just zoning out. And at that time, I've had that light on in my truck, and the back light, and I remember feeling a weird, overwhelming feeling, and then all of a sudden the lights turned off in my Jeep, and we went to town later on that night, and I got a text message saying that my grandma passed away around the time that I got my lights turned off in my Jeep. Me witnessing that, I knew my grandma was going to be there, or she was trying to say goodbye to me. Because also when I was young, my grandpa passed away. I witnessed my grandpa pass away when I was young, watched him take his last breath. I remember asking my grandpa, spiritually closing my mind and telling myself in my head, Grandpa, you need to be here for me and be my guardian angel. And I remember getting up that morning and sitting at the table where they would usually sit at and eat breakfast. And I remember turning around and watching the microwave turn on by itself. And that's one of the weirdest, craziest feelings, to feel a cold wind breeze against you and it chills the back of your neck, and then having a device turn on without you even touching it. So I knew then, at 16 years old, I knew then that the spiritual world is truly, in fact, real, and you just have to be open-minded and acceptive of them. There's a lot of unanswered questions that we have because we're so closed-minded that we're not able to focus on that. But if we opened up our minds a little bit more, the answers are there for us to be successful and to be loving and caring as a person, to embrace what we have as life and death. I know when I speak of my grandma and grandpa, all I have to do is I want to feel you and see you and hear you, and they will give me a sign, a feeling, an overwhelming feeling, something that you can't explain.
I love it. I love all our little stories and all these little stories that we have in our life. They bring us to where we our present moment right now. Because if you would have 15 years ago, if you would have asked yourself if you were going to be doing this, you would have never even conceived it. But now that you're spiritually kind of growing down your path now and taking a different route than what you thought was the only road available now, like all these miracles have been happening in your life. There's so many that have happened that, it's like me, I can't even think about them until I'm like, oh, I should have talked about that one because there's so many of them. But I'm gonna ask you a couple questions about your story, kind of just to reflect on it. How have all of these experiences in your life with angels, and because just like my life's a miracle, me talking sitting here today, because I've went through a lot of things, and I've had my life and death experiences. I've been there, and so have you. How have all of these experiences permanently changed your daily mindset?
I can't really say it's just all of a sudden changed my mind. I've always been wanting to be a good person, wanting to be a better person, wanting to invest in myself. Never really had the support or felt like I had the support. But when you ask the other side to give you a sign or to respond to you when you're in dying need, or when they say God doesn't hear my prayers, but really the half the time is that we're not listening. And I've always, since I was a little kid, my mom said that my real dad that passed away, his spirit would come visit me. And my mom said that when I was about 4 or 5, I would talk to him, and she would say, "Oh, you're talking to him in the picture, right?" And I'm like, "No, he's standing right here." And I remember me being a little kid going downstairs in the basement. I used to live in Ogden, Utah, living on 26 and Van Buren. And if I close my eyes, I can just see it still to this day, and me staying in the basement. And my mom said that I was flickering the lights, and I was always a little hyper ass kid, never liked to listen and stuff like that, and ADD, and they try to diagnose as OCD and ADD and ADHD or whatever. But really, you're just hyper. You're just a kid. You're a boy that just wants to rip out of his skin and be you. So my mom, she said I was sleeping one night, and she's like, "Mark, quit playing with the lights." And she didn't hear no response from me, and she's still seeing the lights flickering. And she would walk downstairs, and she saw this blue light, a blue electricity light going from one room to the other. And my mom would tell me that since I was a little kid. So I always knew that I had angels with me. I always knew I had somebody guarding my life and helping me. And I've always had that intuition and that gut feeling. And I've always had that extra voice that's in your head. Should I do it? Should I not? Is it right? Is it good? If you feel good and it felt right and it's positive, then it's right. If it made you feel disgusting and hateful and sad, then it's wrong. So I kind of put myself in the middle of those. And it's not all about spirit angels coming into me and people thinking that they fly down and this and that. It's not about that. It's about the experiences and the certain signs they bring you, and the blessings and the things that you ask for. They are listening. It's just the way that works for me. I've always had them with me, and just to be able to acknowledge that they're there and they responded to me and let me know that I'm not here by myself. And that's what I continue to do, is to improve myself, to be a better person, not to be so hateful, not to be so angry, and just to love life and embrace life as it is. And if you want to change, you got to make the change yourself. It's not easy. You and I both know that. We've been on a spiritual journey. We went and did a little bit of Reiki, We went and got our Reiki attunement. We did a lot of meditating and a lot of spiritual movement and our chakras alignment, and actually
Kinds
just
of stuff.
trying to be a better mentor and a better person to ourselves, not only ourselves, but to the people that are around us. These videos that we make, they're not just going to be sitting there. They're also going to be heard.
We get to leave a legacy for others.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends on what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. Is it something prideful or is it something shameful? It's all up to you if you want to do that change.
Exactly. So that kind of brushes on my next question is, do you find yourself being more optimistic and less confined by fear since your experience with your angels and pretty much life? I mean, I know that now that I've been on my spiritual journey, I feel like I am not as fearful as I was. I've always been pretty brave and done stuff, but I don't find myself being fearful of doing things like, getting up and talking to people and worried about what everybody's saying.
To tell you the truth, I always will be fearful. If you're not fearful or acknowledge
A
the
healthy amount of fear.
acknowledging the nervousness, acknowledging the fear, acknowledging the fail of the embarrassment, and acknowledging all that. If you don't acknowledge all that, you're not going to be able to fail. If you don't fail, then you're not going to be able to improve. If you don't improve, then there's no movement, there's no success. You have to be able to have a little bit of fear, because you know that if you have fear, then that means you have pride in what you do and you don't want to fail. And if you fail, then you just pick yourself back up. The way I look at it, a fear is something that's always going to block you on something that you want to do with your life. If you don't get over your fears, you're never going to be able to experience new life.
That is so true. I was reading a book last night, and in my book, it was actually saying that we run away from the pain because you can do that, but if you run away from the pain, you're going to sit stagnant where you are, and you're never
Well,
going to spiritually level up.
the thing is like we discussed also, if you don't face your past becomes your present. And if you don't face your present, which came from your past, it follows up to your future. And if you don't face those things, you're never going to be able to conquer that. And that's what we need to do, is face the fear and get over it, and know that if we fail, we're human and we get back up. Sometimes we need a little bit of push, but that's why you ask your angels and your creator, and you ask them to give you the motivation that you need and the inspiration and the ideas, and be open-minded to receiving those.
Exactly. And that is so true. And it's also about taking care of yourself daily. Now, I know that my self-care routine was terrible before. I used to smoke cigarettes and I drank Diet Coke. I wasn't really taking care of myself like I should have been. What does a daily self-care routine look like since all of your experiences? What helps you keep your mind, body, and soul balanced to avoid disruption on your current journey so you don't get sucked back into the void? Because that's the biggest thing is you work really hard to get past it, but if you don't continue working, unfortunately, it will suck you back in. So how do you keep on track?
I have a thing that you live by, how do you want to live tomorrow? It's going to reflect on what you do today. So if you don't practice on being good and practice on improving yourself and embracing yourself and investing into yourself, you'll never be successful. What keeps me, what I have, and it keeps me motivated to keep on going forward is life. I don't want to be just a slump, just sitting here and not doing anything with life. Right now, through this corona and through all of this pandemic and stuff, we have all this time in our hands. And so I've been picking up a few projects, a few things that are out of my comfortable zone. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety getting on a computer. I'm a computer literate, but I'm learning, I'm getting taught.
You stopped eating meat.
That's what I was going to say. Like when I started doing this Reiki, I was still eating meat and all kinds of crazy meat, and just like come home and eat tacos and enchiladas and fried chicken and all that crap. And so this last, I say, 5 months, we've been off the meat. We've been only, I do eat eggs. I eat a little bit of cheese. I drink milk. I eat a lot of vegetables, fruits, smoothies. I haven't had a single bite of meat in 5 months of any kind of poultry, of anything. And it's a big deal to me because I'm an eater. I'm a meat eater. I come from Texas. We like that barbecue, and we like that barbecue brisket, pulled pork sandwiches, and, those bouillons, those fat sausages. We like all that. We like that carne asada when we're chilling with our cousins. And now I have a few family members that like to encourage me and tell me, hey, good job, keep it up and continue. You look a lot healthier. I feel like I dropped a little bit of weight. I'm still fat, but hey, the rest of that weight will drop anyways when you get older. Remember that. So I got to still keep it packed in a little bit. Now I own my own business. I own On the Move Catering. You can reach me on the email address is onthemovecatering111@gmail.com. I've been working on a podcast also. Heard, did you hear me? And the reason why I say heard is it's just a main common word that a lot of cooks like to use. If you listening, you heard me. If you heard me, then whip it up. I want to see what you're making. But 50% of the time, the cooks aren't listening. They ask you, what'd you say? And you're like, well, why'd you call heard? And it's just a common thing that they will respond back to, but they aren't listening. But when we do listen, we'll be able to find the answers. We'll live life the way it's supposed to be: happy, free, loving, caring, and love yourself, and stop being so critical over everything that we do in life. We're human, and that's just what we do. And that's why I cook. I like to bring people together. I like to see their faces when they eat. Sometimes I cook some shitty ass stuff. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes my cousin says, "Hey, dude, this tastes like ass," and I'm like, "Hey, sorry." I do cook some pretty badass stuff, and I
Well,
love it.
nobody's perfect, so but your story is amazing, and I know it inspires a lot of people out there because food is the one thing that will always bring us together, and the best conversations are had over a meal, over a dish. It always unites. No, it doesn't even matter how rich or poor you are. Food always brings you together, and that's why I feel like your angels brought you into being a chef, because it's something you naturally are. You're a natural chef, cook, but your angels brought you this gift because you can help heal other people by doing your cooking. And that's what's cool about your personal chef is you go into people's houses, you make the food there for them, and so they just gotta bring it there, and you're like, hey, what do you want me to make? And they go get all the ingredients, or they can have you go shop, either way. But I think that's really cool that you go, and it's not just about the food, it's about the conversation. And you're got great conversation. So I think that's really cool that you can go and give this gift. Your links are going to all be on the bottom of this podcast too. But On the Move Catering 111 is pretty much across the board where everyone can find you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the most important takeaway you have for our audience about the power of spirit and the beautiful miracles that it contains?
Always be critical on what you think and what you say out loud. Always be respectful to what you say to others. What you give is what you get. What goes around comes around. And the angels will remind you of that. When you're having a shitty day and you need that lift, they'll give you that lift. But don't turn around and shit on them, because they'll turn around and not bless you anymore. Not that they don't want to bless you, it's just that you're not asking for blessings in love. Now you're asking for blessings in greed and in hate. and in worry and in fear. So I live day by day knowing that I have my angels by my side. I know that I am improving myself, and I know that I am investing in myself, and I know what I think, what I do is going to reflect on my future. And my angels know that if I do good, good is always rewarded. You do bad, you will pay for bad, and karma will always get hers. And that's just facts. You do good, you put in good, you will receive good in life. And that's just the way the universe works. People think that even if you whisper that the universe can't hear you, they can, and it will. And it will prove to you that it will. So wake up every morning positive, wake up every morning knowing that you're going to have a good day, wake up knowing there's no fear involved in what you do because you're doing it with passion, you're doing it with love, and hard work. And hard work pays off. So we get discouraged a lot because we don't get the answers right then and there, but maybe you didn't work hard enough. So that's my motivation, is being able to work, put in work, and work harder and work even more.
Awesome. I love your story, and I know that you're going to touch a lot of people out here. If y'all need some inspiration on the cooking side or the spiritual side, please reach out to Chef Ramos here. And like I said, it's on the Move Catering 111 is his email at gmail.com, or you can go, he's on Instagram and Facebook. The links are down in the bottom. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story about how you became a chef. I find it so inspiring.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you having me as a guest. It was nice talking to you, and love and light to you.
And y'all go check out his podcast, Heard, But Did You Hear Me? Because there's going to be a lot of just awesome talks. He's very random, but very awesome, intelligent stuff. So, well, there you have it, beautiful souls. Another powerful hour of angelic miracles that you have just personally witnessed. I have goosebumps. My angels are definitely surrounding this beautiful podcast, and I would like to express my gratitude as I do at the end of every podcast, and say thank you to my angels, to all my archangels, my spirit team, and my creator as we wrap up this podcast. I would like to say thank you for always being there for me, even when I had a hard time believing. Thank you. And thank you, beautiful souls, for tuning in to another miracle-filled episode of Your Angels Are Talking. Are you listening? Inspirational stories of angelic and universal miracles. Tune in next week to share in on more of the love and miracles that our angels create for us daily. This is Jess Intuitive Angel Healer, sending all of you beautiful souls love and light out there and healing angel vibes. Until we meet again next time, take care. Love and light, everybody.